Hey, good morning, guys. It's actually August 6th, but I'm recording August 5th because I missed it yesterday. Sorry. Anyway, it's Luke 18 again. It's the let us go up to Jerusalem. Jesus takes his disciples with him, instructs them, hey, we're going to Jerusalem, and here's what's going to happen. And he outlines for them all the things that are going to happen. And Chambers is dealing with this, and he actually calls it this today's devotion is excuse me. I'm fighting a cough, a little bit of a cold, so sorry. Um, he calls it the baffling call of God because what Jesus says doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And sometimes, in all honesty, I think when we see God do things that don't make sense, that should be a little bit of a comfort to us because his ways are not our ways. His, as high as the heavens are above the earth, so are his thoughts above our thoughts and his ways above our ways. And so sometimes when things don't make sense, we should maybe step back and say, oh, good, God's working. This doesn't make any good sense to me. Chambers says here, and it didn't make any sense to the disciples either. As Jesus lays it out, here's what's going to happen. As the prophets foretold, here's what's going to happen. The disciples, I don't understand what he's saying, even though he'd said it many times before. Again, sorry. Chambers says Jesus Christ's life was an absolute failure from every standpoint but God's. But what seemed failure from man's standpoint was a tremendous triumph from God's, because God's purpose is never man's purpose. What a really good way to put it. Everybody else would see it as a failure, but not God, because his ways are different than ours. It cannot be stated definitely. Chambers says a little further down, it cannot be stated definitely what the call of God is to, because his call is to be in comradeship. So comradeship is a word that doesn't really, carry forward to our time frame, but relationship with himself. His call is to be in relationship with himself for his own purpose, and the test is to believe that God knows what he's after. So not to see what we're seeing in our circumstances or the circumstances around us and say, oh, God doesn't know what he's doing. Obviously, I love when people don't love it. I hate it when people say, well, if God is a loving God, sorry, the premise you just stated makes you God, because you're now defining what love is. You don't get to define love. God does. That is his domain. He defines love. If God is a just God, sorry, your premise is wrong. God defines justice. You do not. You cannot make yourself God and define it. So it's if we look at our circumstances and say, well, this doesn't line up with what I think, well, I'm sorry, that's the problem, is you're thinking too much. God ordains circumstances for his own purposes. Like I said, Jesus' life was a disaster. I always tell people, Jesus was either the Son of God, sent to redeem mankind to the Father through his death on the cross, his resurrection from the grave, or he was a madman who's responsible for the murder and martyrdom of countless millions of people throughout history. He can't be anything other than one or the other. He is either one or he is the other. So when people start to question, well, is this really God's plan, or does God really know what's best for me? Even if we do that in our own minds, we are taking God out of his lordship, and we're pulling down on him and saying, Lord, you are not Lord. And so that's what it means, really. And when we say, we lead someone in the sinner's prayer and we say, making God Lord of our life, not just Savior, but Lord, not just Redeemer, but also Lord. So whatever you do, whether it makes sense or not, the things that the prophets of old had to do, it made no good sense, but God was ordaining them. He was using them for his good purposes. So anyway, sorry. Back to the end here. He says, a Christian is one who trusts the wits and the wisdom of God and not his own wits. If we have a purpose of our own, it destroys the simplicity and the leisureliness which ought to characterize the children of God. This leisureliness which ought to characterize the children of God is just trusting. That's what a 3-year-old does. Maybe a 3-year-old, they start to push back and start to rebel. Human nature starts to come out, but maybe 2. Anyway, I hope that's an encouragement to you guys. So sometimes, sometimes I think we just need to be careful not to pull God down from his place of Lord. That is his rightful place. And so our call is to be in relationship with him and do what he says. Be encouraged today.